Hey guys, welcome back. Joe Brunsman, insurance broker to the stars. Today, the hidden AI risk your MSP is facing, and what do I think you guys should actually do about it? So, as a brief overview, here's what we're going to be talking about. Exclusions found in insurance policies. Hey, is AI implicated here? How I think this is going to impact your MSP, and then some real crucial portions of your MSA that I think you need to take a look at and potentially update so you don't get burned in this particular area. Now, does insurance cover AI claims? That's a broad question. There's all different types of insurance. I only cover really cyber, tech E&O, EPLI, D&O, that type of stuff. There's a million different types of insurance. But broadly speaking, we're already seeing exclusions in D&O, E&O, and general liability or business owners policies. So these would be types of policies that your clients could be holding here. So just like cyber claims 10 years ago, what we're seeing is, hey, these traditional policies going, wait a minute, here's this exposure. We don't know anything about this. We didn't rate for this. We want to add an exclusion so that we're not covering something we did not intend to cover. Now, as a brief warning aside, in the coming months, you are probably going to see some wacky headlines talking about some company had a data breach and it was related to AI, and their insurance company denied them coverage. Please don't fall for the hype. Most likely what happened there was they tried to get coverage under one of these other types of policies that just isn't really designed to do that and never would have done it in the past. But their attorney is just kind of grasping at straws, so they're trying to get something. All right. Now, to tell you how prevalent this is going to be, there's already a standard ISO form for this. So about 95% of general insurers use ISO policy forms. This ISO AI exclusion form, it's already available. So if your clients don't have it now, they're probably going to have it moving forward. What does this have to do with your client's cyber insurance? Am I seeing any AI exclusions? As of yet, I have not seen a single one. Most insurers on the cyber insurance side, they're either silent on the topic, which means, hey, I think they're likely going to cover some AI-related claims because they didn't specifically exclude it. Or they're saying, hey, we're going to affirmatively add some endorsement that says, yes, you do have coverage for AI-related issues, because they want to use that as a marketing ploy to kind of, give the insurance guys some additional meat to feed to the clients there and make the clients feel better, right? Even though it doesn't really do anything extra than maybe what it did last year, it still looks good to people, right? That don't understand the system. So you're probably going to see your clients actually having affirmative AI-related coverage on their cyber policies moving forward. Now, there could be some really kind of outlandish, widespread event exclusion that could get triggered if there's some, AI cyber apocalypse or something like that. But that's kind of tertiary, ultimately, to this conversation. Now, how do I think all this ties together? You're already seeing, hey, more and more exposure is being pushed onto your client's cyber policy. Now you start adding in the increased likelihood of a data breach class action claim following some type of cyber event. I think there's a higher likelihood of litigation against your MSP, which is why I'm making this video, to try and keep you safe. All right. Now, how could this happen? Let's imagine a scenario where the client CFO, they mistakenly input a bunch of really important information into some AI somewhere, ChatGPT or Gemini, or use your AI of choice. This then triggers a data breach under their policies. So now they have to pay for the event. So attorney and forensics, as hard as that's going to be, breach notification, credit monitoring, some potential business interruption, reputational harm, that type of issue. But now they could also face a class action claim. And hey, could the plaintiff actually name you as a co-defendant, even though it was your client CFO that did this and they knew they weren't supposed to do it? And you could logically be sitting there going, hey, not my monkey, not my circus. How could this possibly happen to my MSP? Well, just remember, this was probably the most disappointing part of my master's in cyber law, was when you figure out, hey, what's legal and what is just are not the same thing. All right? What is legal and what is just are not the same. So, they can't sue my MSP, can they? Well, no, they probably could. we've already seen this happen. All right. So for all the naysayers out there, we've already seen this happen where a client has an event and they pull in the MSP or the vendors, which are named as co-defendants. So you remember my video, the $1 million MSP lawsuit, Acronis got named. They tried to pull that in there. The Barry Dunn class action claim, the MSP got named on some of those. What's happening here? They just want as much money as they possibly can. They're going to pull in everybody who had anything to do with that network, and you could really be on the chopping block there. So if a lawsuit were to happen and you as the MSP owner or one of the techs ends up on the witness stand, what do I think they could say? Hey, you were the subject matter expert. You were the IT guy. Don't you know everything about every piece of technology ever made? You owed a duty of care to these poor people whose PII was entrusted to your client's systems that was under your management as the subject matter expert. Next, let's say you failed to implement DLP or adequate endpoint controls, blocking of unapproved AI sites. Hey, you're the tech genius here, right? Okay, good. Didn't you know that AI could be a problem? Why don't we discuss why you didn't take proactive measures? Now, I'm not saying this is fair. I'm not saying that this is just. I'm just saying these are kind of the lines of attack that they could come after you with. They could say, hey, you failed as a subject matter expert here to proactively recommend AI use policies or adequate training and monitoring. Why didn't you do that? You're the tech guy. We're supposed to trust you. You breached some contractual or implied obligation to secure this environment. So now all these poor people have to deal with a lifetime of identity theft. You didn't put the guardrails on the AI like you knew you were supposed to. You knew this could have been a problem. You were lazy. You weren't going to get paid for it, or you just forgot to bring it up, or you were so busy. You were negligent. Once again, I'm not saying this is fair. I'm just saying these are the avenues of attack that they could come after you with. So, here we go. Let's talk about MSA updates that your MSP cannot ignore. If you have one of those really old MSAs, you just haven't updated in a while, or maybe they just, you had a whole batch of clients sign it, we're going to talk about what to do there. Now, before we get to that, very relevant sponsors here. So you have CRD and Aston. They do MSAs and SOWs for MSPs. So if you want that kind of hands-on attorney experience, you want to be able to talk to somebody about your MSA, then I would say, hey, check out CCA. If you're just like, hey, I'm new, I'm smaller, or hey, I got it, I just need an updated MSA, I need an SOW, I need a CPQ, go ahead and check out xclause.com. All right? Now, your updated MSA is very, very important. I have seen some incredibly old MSAs that are still floating out around there, and they're just not encapsulating all the current risks that you have as an MSP. So, hey, it's super cool that you're in this awesome industry where there's a phenomenal opportunity for growth, but with that increase in opportunity comes an increase in potential risk. So you got to make sure you keep that MSA up to date. Now, before anybody asks or accuses me of this, you likely cannot completely prevent being named, but you can have protections in place. So make sure you have the right tech E&O policy. Now, indemnification clause. Everybody always skips over this when we talk about MSAs. But this could be, for example, hey, client pays for defense, indemnity, and holds you harmless for third-party claims arising from their negligent acts. What does this sound like? Hey, their CFO put a whole bunch of PII into some AI system. Now my MSP is getting named in this. Hey, client, this is your fault. You didn't supervise this guy. Hey, if we're getting sued, you're the one that's paying for it. All right. So there's different types of indemnification provisions. You got to know what you're looking at there. Next, limitation of liability and exclusion of consequential damages. Limitation of liability. I think I have an entire video on that. I think I'm up to like 120 videos now, but you can't overlook this stuff. It's super, super important. I recently saw a situation where somebody had crossed out with a marker their limitation of liability number and just wrote in $1 million. You don't want to do that. You are asking for trouble. Not every client has to be your client. If they're a pain, they can go be a pain to somebody else. If they're super risky, they can go be risky to somebody else. They don't have to be your problem. So you need to check out that limitation of liability provision. You need to talk about exclusion of consequential damages. So look where it says consequential damages. Read what it says and then start thinking about, okay, how does that actually apply to your MSP? Next, clearly define who is responsible for what. And this is one of the biggest things you can take away from this. Hey, who is responsible for training, compliance, use policies? Now, in this particular video, right, we're talking about artificial intelligence and using those systems. This applies for all parts of the services you render to those clients, but start thinking about, okay, who's in charge of AI training, right? If our client's using AI or shadow AI, who's responsible for training? Do our clients have some type of compliance issues where AI could be a problem? Or do our clients even have an AI use policy? Have I, as an MSP, recommended to my clients, hey, we're not doing AI. It's in our MSA. You need to be responsible for this. Client, I really think you need to go talk to your attorney, talk to your HR folks or your PEO, whoever you have. See if there's some type of AI use policy so that way you can make sure employees are not doing what they should not be doing, or at least you have documentation that they weren't supposed to do it, to be somewhat cynical. Now, continuing on, you could have, for example, something akin to the following in your MSA. Now, I am not your attorney. This is just kind of a general example, right? You could say something to the effect of, hey, client shall not and shall ensure its employees shall not use any AI or LLM tool or transmit any client data, confidential corporate information, et cetera, into those systems without MSP prior written approval via an additional agreement. All right, so now you can try and push this over to be an additional agreement. Your client, man, they have to carry cyber insurance. Once again, I know I've kind of beat that horse to death, but they need to carry cyber insurance. All right, that is one of your primary layers of defense. Next, man, you got to carry a tech E&O policy because, like I said before, I just don't see any way where you can make yourself bulletproof against being named or being dragged in to even these kind of nuisance claims. It's going to happen to everybody eventually, so make sure that you're properly protected. Then, hey, get your MSA updated, all right? Addendums are your friend. If it's been a while, you know who you are, I'm talking to you. It's okay, right? I'm also a business owner. I have a to-do list that's 1,000,000 miles long, as do you. But this is one of those things where it's like, hey, carve out some time. Make sure you talk to the right people. We talked about CRD, CRD, and ASIN. We talked about X-Clause. There's other options out there available. Make sure that you have that MSA updated so you're at least starting from a position of strength. Do not start from a position of weakness because you will get burned. I have seen it happen before. Also, I'm not your attorney. There we go. Now, where there is risk, there is also reward. So I've gotten some feedback on my videos over the years, and I try to be self-conscious about this. I work in the world of doom and gloom. And so I don't want to always just be at least being perceived as saying, hey, here's all the things you can't do and the world is crumbling and the AI apocalypse is here. That's not true, right? All I'm saying is, hey, I want you to be in a position of strength so that way when you move forward, you understand what the risks are and then you can accept or deny those risks or transfer those risks as appropriate. But at least you're educated on the risk and you're not just shooting in the dark. So I'm not saying, hey, you can't use AI. I'm not saying you have to totally forbid your client from using AI. I think there's a whole bunch of ways where you could actually monetize this AI boom for clients and at the same time, you could make them safer. So as just kind of a general thought here, hey, if you're going to go to your clients and you're going to say, hey, I have this addendum to our MSA that's talking about AI and it's going to say all types of things about how my MSP is not responsible, et cetera, maybe you should have the carrot with the stick and start considering, hey, what types of additional services could I offer, right? So now maybe it's a declination of services letter that also talks about how I'm not responsible if you decline these services. and you start having that conversation with the clients, I don't think it's as hard as people naturally presume it is if they've never gone through that type of evolution before. Now, what types of services could you add in with the AI, and where do I think this could be covered under your tech E&O policy? And, where do I think really the big ticket items are? That might just be a video for another day because we're already 15 minutes in. All right, folks, with that, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you click right above me here, the wonderful YouTube algorithm will recommend another of my videos for you. And if you click on my face over there, you can subscribe to my channel. All right, folks, with that, stay safe.